We got a relatively brief speaking program this morning, and then we're going to do a ceremonial groundbreaking. But I would like to acknowledge, before I introduce the mayor, Congressman Stephen Lynch, who very much wanted to be here. Obviously, he grew up in this public housing community, and we've named it after his mom. But as you all may know, there's a very, very important vote down in Washington this morning to avoid another government shutdown. The mayor and I have been in close contact with the congressman over the past week or so. He has been hearing from many constituents and many of his housing authorities, including Brockton and Quincy, to ensure that there was no interruption of services to our residents during the past shutdown. So we're hopeful that the government will move on and we will not have a shutdown this time. But it was critically important for the congressman to be there today to take that important vote. So we're here today to celebrate the groundbreaking of Phase 3 for the complete redevelopment of the Old Colony public housing community. Phase 3 will include the demolition of 250 80-year-old public housing units, and in their place we will build 305 brand new, deeply affordable public housing units. So not only are we not losing any deeply affordable units in this phase, we are actually adding some units, deeply affordable units in this phase. It represents a total of $150 million investment in this public housing community. And let me say before I introduce the mayor that we would not be here today for this groundbreaking if it were not for the city's contribution, the mayor's contribution of $25 million to the redevelopment of this community. So please then, a warm, salty welcome for our friend, our mayor, Martin J. Walsh.
Thank you, Billy. And let me just thank Billy and his team at the Housing Authority for incredible work. I was looking at pictures the other day about and when we did the first groundbreaking here at Old Colony. I was the head of the building trades. Mark Fortune was the president, who's still the president, back here. And I was looking at the picture of that development, and it was out of that groundbreaking came Building Pathways, which is a pre-apprentice program, which we've put, I think, 200 and almost 300 people into the building trades. Majority, 90+% kids of color out of the housing development that came out of that groundbreaking here. The money that was invested, Billy pushed. There was a job training component in that agreement that President Obama had put down, and Billy pushed me, the building trades, to do this. And Trin Nguyen, who is then Billy's chief of staff, is now at Workforce Development in the city, was part of that conversation, and it really changed the dynamics of what we want to do as far as inclusion and having people working in the industry of construction. Since that time, Building Pathways has aspired into Operation Exit, which is another program we started since I've been the mayor. So it's really amazing that this project that we're here today, breaking ground on, what it's done. This has been transformative, not just for the residents that live here, but it's been transformative in so many different aspects of the city. To how we do developments, how we look at affordable housing, how we look at making sure that all the housing developments that we have in the city of Boston, because we don't have a federal partner really, a real strong federal partner every day, that we're doing renovations. I mean, Whittier Street we're doing over, but President Obama's administration was able to give us $30 million there, so we got money there. We've gotten some federal money, like Steve Lynch has fought to get federal money. Our other congressional delegation has fought to get us money. But what this project has done for the city and what it's done for in so many different aspects is absolutely amazing. Billy alluded to the fact of $25 million. The $25 million that's in this project is because the sale of a garage that we had downtown Boston that was crumbling. Winthrop Square. A lot of controversy, which shouldn't have been around the project. I get there was controversy around the shadow, but there shouldn't have been as much controversy. And still, some people are still saying that it was a bad deal. It was a $160 million deal for the city of Boston, one-time payment, of which $25 million is going here to pay for renovating affordable housing for people that live in a housing development, that live in a building that was built before World War II. So I don't know how that's a bad investment. We also put $10 million into East Boston, Orient Heights, And I want to thank Michael Flaherty, because Michael was the chair of the committee where that bill went into, and he helped shepherd that through the city council. And I want to thank Nick Collins, who at the time was the state representative, who helped get the bill, because what we did with there was another bonus is we ended shadows in Boston Common. So we got rid of what's called the shadow bank. So not only did we preserve the Boston Common for the future, no new shadows, we eliminated it, so we're not going to get into this argument anymore about now we have restrictions on how big buildings can go in certain areas of the downtown. So Nick was instrumental in the House side, getting that bill through the House of Representatives, and then we got it to the Senate and moved it on. So I want to special mention to those two elected officials. I also want to thank the other elected officials that are here. Eddie Flynn, who since he's been elected has hit the ground running. Obviously, I mean, I talk about in today's world of politics, grassroots doesn't seem to be the way that people do their business anymore. It's about issues and things like that, and they're important, don't get me wrong. But Eddie's a grassroots politician. He's here. He's in his entire district. So I want to thank Eddie Flynn for being here. Representative David Beal, who's been in office now for about 6 weeks and is going to have a big impact. Worked for Nick, so he understands the process and is going to have a big impact on our community and also hit the ground running. And the newest member of the Boston City Council is here, who made her priority on her opening maiden speech on the City Council floor. Building and preserving affordable housing out there at Garrison. So I want to thank the elected officials that are here today for your great work. I want to thank Pam Goodman from Beacon Communities. I mean, when we were here, I don't know how many, 7 or 8 years ago, we did the groundbreaking, met with Pam, we talked about what we're going to do. Sheila Dillon's here from Housing, Chief of Housing in the City of Boston. It's done some incredible work. All of the different funding partners, thank you, and I'm going to talk about you in a second, but thank you for what you do. Most importantly, the residents. You're the reason why this happened. Way back in the day, Billy McGonagle grew up down the street. Steve Lynch grew up here, focused on getting money in the federal government to make investments in Old Colony and in housing across the city. And if it weren't for people like that actually really truly care about working class and people that are poor, and people that are, when I say poor, I'm talking poor from a momentary piece of poor is to bring people up and help people move into the middle class. So I want to thank the residents that were here that took the time and were patient in getting to where we're going to. We're not done yet. We still have some more phases here. We're still going to find the money. We're going to do it. We're going to make it happen. So I want to thank you for that. And Billy referenced Congressman Lynch, and we certainly live in unprecedented, uncertain times in national government. We don't have a housing plan, we don't have an infrastructure plan, we don't have an environment plan, we don't have a lot of plans. But the work that this Congress has done in 6 weeks, and Congressman Lynch is part of that, a big part of that, to not only end the first shutdown but avoid a second one, I don't think people understand the importance of what was accomplished. We were about 3 weeks away from having 13,000 housing vouchers unfunded. We were in Boston. We were 3 weeks away from food stamps and WIC programs being unfunded. We had contracts that weren't paid. We were heading into what could be a potentially financial crisis. And we were starting to have conversations in the city and the state were having conversations about, we're going to have to make investments to make up the shortfall of this money. And to have Congress making a vote today on a budget is so important for our country and so important for the most vulnerable in our country that I commend them because we can't, I'm not talking about the economy and the impacts on the economy and the impacts on the stock market. Those are all important, but I'm talking about the impacts on human beings living in housing, living with vouchers, living in public housing, living with assistance, living with help, families that need help. That's going to be avoided today by the vote that Congressman Lynch is casting, and he's a big part of that. So I want to thank the congressman and his staff for that. This groundbreaking is our third groundbreaking in the past 3 weeks in the city of Boston for public housing. We broke ground a couple weeks ago on West Newton and Rutland Street apartments to renovate those units. We broke ground on Lenox Camden to renovate those units. And today marks another phase of here in Old Colony as we begin phase 3. Billy already talked about it, how big the building is. Old Colony is one of the oldest and largest housing authority developments in the country. It's located obviously here in South Boston, and you have waterfront property. I think between this one and Maryland McCormick, are probably the only 2 developments that have waterfront property in the country. So it's important that we want to continue to preserve units like this and keep them affordable. In 2016, we were proud to rename the homes in honor of Congressman Lynch's mother, Ann, who was a public housing advocate and somebody who fought really hard for public housing. Public housing is good for our city. As we think about the growth in our city and what's happened in the last 5 years, we've added 120,000 new jobs roughly, 50,000 new people, we're building all kinds of new homes, and the question always comes up, are we remaining affordable? Can people that live here and grow up here stay here? And we're doing everything we can to do that. We're building housing outside of public housing, but we're also making sure that we preserve what we have for our public housing stock. So it's important. Not only do we have public housing, but it's also important to make sure that there's good public transportation around it, that we have grocery stores and shops, open space, child care, after-school programs, workforce development programs. Senator Collins just grabbed me on workforce development a minute ago, put a bug in my ear about something down the waterfront. Those are all things that we have to do and continue to do to make sure that young people have the opportunity. That's why Building Pathways was created. There are young people that grew up in public housing, that are working in the building trades, that are on the way to buying their own home, and a pathway out of what they want to do and move into independence. And that's really incredible. So this is an exciting time in our city. We're in the middle of a building boom. I was just driving. I went over to Chelsea this morning to speak at the Boys and Girls Club. On my way, I went down Sumner Street. I did cut down L Street to Sumner Street, South the electeds. And I was on the Sumner Street Bridge, and I looked over and I saw 9 cranes in the air. And I thought about the growth of those opportunities. Under those cranes are going to be jobs. Under those cranes are going to be opportunities. Under those cranes is growth for our city. So it's amazing to see what's happening. We're working on building to meet our housing needs, our housing goal. We started in 2014. We put a housing goal of 53,000 units of new housing in Boston by the year 2030. We've upped that number to 69,000 units of new housing. We are running into some problems in neighborhoods saying that they're overdeveloped, so I need some help there to make sure that we continue to keep our neighborhoods thriving and healthy, and so everyone can stay in them. So I look forward to it. We're committed to preserving affordable housing and improving quality of life. And now I want to thank the Boston Housing Authority again and Beacon Communities for working together on this long-term plan at Old Colony. I want to thank the Department of Housing and Community Development for your partnership and investments in this project. In these projects, not just this one, but throughout the city. I want to thank Mass Housing Finance Agency for their investments and their help as well. This truly is a partnership. We can't do it on our own. BHA can't do it on their own. The city can't do it on their own. State can't do it on their own. That's why we need to be all working together. So helping us get additional funding, thank you for that. And as always, we're going to make sure, working with the electeds that are here today and all the electeds, making sure that we continue to make our neighborhood safe. And our legislative priorities are to increase housing security in Boston, and we're going to continue to push and build affordable housing and preserve existing housing. So just at the end of the day, today's a happy day. Today's a happy day because in Congress, they're doing something that is the right thing to do. And passing legislation that will keep our government open and keep us moving forward. And here in Boston, we're breaking ground on something that we started probably about 10 years ago, that Billy started 10 years ago, and starting the next phase of a great development here in this community. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to recognize Nick Zafarakis from Congressman Lynch's office, and if I could, yes. And if I could briefly, Congressman Lynch and I have a great deal in common. Obviously, we both grew up in public housing in South Boston and in large Irish Catholic families. But recently, I discovered that we have something else in common. I frequently bump into the congressman up at Stop and Shop on Broadway early on Friday evenings, with both of us pushing a shopping cart around. So I want everyone to know that Congressman Lynch and I are husbands and fathers that do the grocery shopping. So, okay? Our next speaker is someone that has been part of this partnership at Old Colony since the very beginning, roughly about 10 years ago when we did the first groundbreaking. I'm delighted to introduce the former executive director, but she's going to stay active, particularly in ensuring that the Tierney Center remains a vibrant community space. Someone that I worked with at the Housing Authority too many years ago for us to talk about, I think, but please a warm welcome for my friend Pam Goodman from Beacon Community.
For those of you wondering, it's probably like 40 years ago, but we're not talking. So good morning, and thank you all for joining us to celebrate this next groundbreaking for Phase 3. We are very excited to be working on the redevelopment of the Annie M. Lynch homes at Old Colony. I want to thank the BHA, the residents, DHCD, Mass Housing, HUD, and various city departments for helping us make this next phase a reality. We are here because of the support we have received throughout this process from our elected officials. We work in lots of cities and towns. I have to say the elected officials in Southie are second to none. So I want to, even though they've all been mentioned before, I want to thank Congressman Stephen Lynch, State Senator Nick Collins, who I'm amazed he still takes my calls. I call him all the time. State Representative David Beal, City Councilors Ed Flynn and Michael Flaherty, and most of all, Mayor Walsh. I also want to recognize, as one of the previous speakers did, Councilor Garrison. Thank you very much for coming here. We're happy to give you a tour. So I want to be clear that Phase 3 is happening because of the mayor's commitment to Old Colony. As the federal government pulled back from its commitment to fund the redevelopment of seriously distressed public housing, the mayor stepped in and, as has been mentioned, allocated funds from the sale of the Winthrop Street Garage. The allocation of those dollars are a critical component of the financing of this phase. Mayor, again, thank you for your commitment to create and preserve affordable housing. The BHA and Beacon, as has been said, have been working together on this redevelopment for about 10 years, and we collectively are exceptionally proud of what we've accomplished. First, I want to thank Darcy Jameson, who's over here, from Beacon. Darcy has been shepherding this effort from the very beginning. I also want to recognize the architectural team, Waypoint KLA, New Ecology, Niche Engineering, Nixon Peabody, Cranshaw Construction, our Beacon team, including Beacon Concepts, others from our development department, accounting, community engagement, compliance, asset management, and our amazing on-site property management and operations team. So thank you. And a very, very special thank you to Kate Bennett, who unfortunately is sick today and can't be here. But she has also shepherded her team, and there are many people here, Amy, Joe, others from BHA, and we've all worked together for, I think, the full 10 years. So we could not have done it without you. Thank you. I also want to introduce Dara Covell. As Bill said, I have retired as CEO, and I'm still working part-time, spending a lot of time here. But I transitioned my responsibilities to Dara. So Dara is over there. And I really want to thank her for allowing me to speak today. So thank you. So all of us know that South Boston is undergoing a tremendous change. Just look around you, let alone at the waterfront. So I applaud the commitment of the BHA, the city, and the state to redevelop and maintain Old Colony as quality, affordable housing into the future. Affordable, safe, healthy housing is the foundation for economic mobility. But programs that address social and emotional learning and the needs of the entire family, including realistic goal setting, financial literacy, mentoring, family stability, education leading to employment, are crucial to the overall health of this community. That's why the work that we and our partners, ABCD Head Start, the Boys and Girls Club, Doc Wayne, and Empath, the work that they do at this center is so critically important. So again, thank you for coming. If anyone wants a tour, we're happy to do it, but thank you for all your support over the years.
Thank you, Pam. The mayor's mentioned Mark Fortune. I would like to also recognize Mark, the president of the Building Trades. Mark's here somewhere. Mark is also a member of the BHA Monitoring Committee. Mark, where are you? I know you're here somewhere. He's hiding. Where is he, in the back? There he is. And I would also like to, this work will be done under a project labor agreement. The entire workforce will be union labor. So I'm excited to make that announcement. Before I introduce our resident speaker, Bobby, I would like to also recognize Yolanda Dela Cruz from South Boston and Action. Yolanda. And I would certainly like to recognize the HUD Regional Administrator, my friend David Teal. Thank you for coming today. And as Pam mentioned, Kate is, I ordered her home and told her not to come in tomorrow. She's running a fever, she's got a sore throat, and I think I'm working her too hard. Could be it, but she certainly needs some time off to rest and recuperate. So, and without any further ado, I'm delighted that Bobby has agreed to speak today on behalf of the residents. We were hoping that Phyllis was going to, but she had a conflict, and it turned out the conflict wasn't a conflict. So I certainly want to recognize Phyllis for her leadership here. But Bobby has been a resident of this community for many, many years. Lived in the old section, has recently moved to one of the new refurbished units, and he's going to speak on behalf of the resident community. A warm welcome for Bobby Julian.
Good morning, thank you. As Billy said, I've been a resident of Old Colony for the last 20 years. 12 of those at the old Old Colony, 8 at the homes at Old Colony, now Anna M. Lynch homes at Old Colony. I was one of the last persons to move out of phase 1. It was a stressful situation for everyone to move, and then in the move, we chose, when we moved, when we were coming back home, we chose to come back to Southie, to Old Colony, because that's where my roots are. Let's see. And we moved back to Old Colony due to the healthier living and the new construction of the homes. When we moved back, it was like we were living in the country, but we're still living in the city. It was so quiet and peaceful. It's just quick. And in closing, I'd like to thank the mayor for his support and his contributions to this phase, $25 million. And it's a great opportunity for the people that live here to work and go building pathways. We appreciate your support. And in closing, thank Bill McGonagle, the administrator of BHA, Pam Goodman of Beacon Communities for Old Colony, for energy efficient and healthier communities to call home. I'm looking forward to the completion of phase 3 and hopefully phase 4. Thank you.
All right, that wraps up the formal part. We will do a ceremonial groundbreaking. We have a great big toy out there, earth mover of some kind. And we got some shovels, and there'll be a photo op. So please join us outside. And after that, there's refreshments here. You're welcome to come back in. Thank you all for coming.
1, 2, 3.
Old Colony. All right.